Thanks everyone to joining me for this seminar from all over the world. And my name is Bingy. I'm in charge of R&D of CDNetworks. And CDN Pro is a product that my team has spending most of our last 6 years developing. So this is a product that we're really proud of, and we believe it has the power to even change the industry. So I'm really happy to have this opportunity to introduce this great product to you. And I know that some of you has already been using this product for a while now, and I hope that you can learn something new from this webinar. And let's move to the next page. Okay, let's first have a very brief review of the history of the internet. So 1983 is usually considered the birth year of the internet. On the first day of that year, ARPANET officially adopted TCP/IP and permitted use by civilian communities. But before that, it's basically a military networks. And in the next 12 years, it remained largely as a military networks and used primarily by research institutions and universities. But on 1995, the World Wide Web really attached the attention of the general public. From that year, the amount of data exploded on the internet. So to solve this problem, in 1998, a group of people from MIT started a new company called Akamai, and they created a brand new industry called a content delivery network. And during that time, they also created a definition of the edge. Okay, I'm going to, which is a really important concept I'm going to talk about later. And 4 years later, AWS created this public cloud, which radically changed the way people build web applications. But it's not until 2015 when the edge computing really became a buzzword. So, you know, like I just mentioned, 17 years ago, okay, we already have a good definition of edge. But given that, until today, when we talk about edge computing, if you ask different people may have different definitions of the edge. Okay, so on this page, we listed basically all possible definitions of the edge, from a centralized data center to the very end users, you know, like a cell phone or IoT devices. Okay, but you can see that different edge, they have different properties. You know, like the latency to the end user, they go from pretty high latency if you serve everything from a centralized data center, and they go from highest latency to the lowest latency if you are using the if you define the end user device itself as the edge. Of course, the latency is going to be 0, but the complexity also increases from left to right. Now with just one central data center, you have only one POP, and it's very easy to manage. But if you have thousands or even millions of end user devices, that network is going to be pretty difficult to manage, to deploy some configurations to make sure things are synchronized. It's going to be very, very complicated. And with decentralized data center, of course, you have a very high availability for that one POP. And if you use the end user device as the edge POP, of course, the availability is going to be pretty low. But overall, the overall availability of the entire edge may be still high. So because of those different constraints, we believe there is an optimal trade-off. So as a CDN provider, of course, we believe the CDN data center gives us the optimal trade-off of the edge. So that in our view, that's the best definition of the edge. So on this picture, we show the edge of a CDN. Of course, it's the CDNetworks CDN. Okay, we have more than 2,800 POPs all over the world in 70 plus countries, and connected to more than 100 ISPs. And the RTT is less than 31 millisecond, magic number from most places in the world. So I'm going to show why I use 31 milliseconds. So I just got the data yesterday from this third-party cloud service or edge service monitor company called CDNPro.com. And we can see here that in the United States, okay, so this website basically measures the performance of the different CDN providers in different regions. So in the United States, CDNetworks ranks number 10. So not very impressive, but if you look at the actual numbers, so we are only like 5 milliseconds away from the number 1. So this is a pretty tight competition. Yeah, we are relatively new players for the US market, so we don't have the biggest network, but we are expanding our network, especially if we can get more customers, hopefully through CDN Pro. And as you can see in China, we are definitely undoubtedly the number 1. So we have a RTT that's only 15.76 milliseconds. So, and that's 60 milliseconds away from number 2, which is Google Cloud CDN. And in the Europe, we rank number 7. And again, we are only, this is also pretty tight competition. So we are only like 2 milliseconds away from number 1. So all over the world, I believe CDNetworks has one of the best networks in all the CDN providers, especially in China and Asia. And again, in US and Europe, we are also pretty good. So basically what I want to say here is that as a CDN provider, we are already in a very good position to provide edge computing service. And today, as you're probably aware, that every CDN company is calling themselves an edge computing provider, and everyone wants to move to evolve their network into an edge computing platform. So what should in our view, what should a CDN do to get ready for edge computing? So on this page, we listed a few important points that we believe a CDN should do to get ready for edge computing. So first of all, as the name suggests, edge computing, we of course need to offer some computing resources on the edge servers to the customers. So traditionally, all CDN does is basically move the data and store the data in the cache of the edge servers. So to offer edge computing, we definitely need to open our computing resources to a customer for them to build their business logics. Okay. In order to achieve this, we need to do a lot other things. Okay. For the traditional CDN configurations, in many cases, actually for our legacy platform, in most cases, whenever a customer needs some configuration, they mostly just send an email or give us a call and describe what they want, and our customer service team would log into our backend platform, backend portal to do the actual configuration for them. So most of the traditional CDN configurations is simple enough. So this form of service could work. But we allow customer to use computing power to implement their business logic, this old model is not going to work, because usually those business logic will be too complicated to be described in a simple email or a phone call. So we definitely need to allow customers to self-service, to be able to write some code on our platform to do that. And talking about self-service, we believe it's very important to give customer as much control as possible. Ideally, we want to give customer 100% of self-service. By 100%, I mean everything. Everything that's configurable should be configurable by a customer. Okay, I'll get to that later. And we believe it's also important for a CDN platform to be an open platform, to be able to integrate with third-party cloud services, because regardless of how we open our computing resource on the edge servers, we believe that it's not possible for a CDN platform to replace the other forms of to replace cloud computing or any other forms of edge computing. There will be different forms of edge computing, and CDN is going to be a part or a piece of the edge computing of all the edge computing forms in the future. So we believe CDN should be open to be able to integrate with other third-party services, which may be provisioned on a cloud service or on other forms of edge computing platforms. And we also believe it's important for our platform for an ideal CDN to provide complicated analytics to help customers to get deeper insight into their business data, because they're going to implement some complicated logics on our platform. So it's really important to give them some tools to, for them to do troubleshooting or to collect the data to improve their service to their end users. And lastly, it's needless to say that we need to make sure this CDN platform is cost-effective, it's highly performant, stable, and secure. So we talked about a few concepts, and next we're going to talk about how the CDN Pro is achieving the concepts we just described. So CDN Pro is a product that we started in 2016. So the goal at that time was to create an ideal CDN based on our 15 years of experience in this industry. And we want this new platform to fully support self-service. And we believe, because we're going to open the computing resources to the customers, so we believe that the actual users will be developers in our customers' company. So instead of primarily for a traditional CDN, the users are primarily the operation team. And we believe, when we open more computing power, the main users will be developers. So we are going to offer more tools, more tools that's familiar for the developers to do their things. And we chose Nginx to implement our edge servers. And of course, we made a lot of major enhancements to make sure it's suitable for as a CDN server to achieve our goal. And we also designed a GSLB based on feedback control loop algorithm, based on real-time performance data, and versus our conventional legacy platform, which needs a lot of human involvement to define DNS map, what we call DNS maps for different customers, for different domains. So this is a save of cost, and it also achieves higher performance. And we also would allow customer to control the trade-off between performance and cost. So this is basically an extension of our belief of self-service. Okay, we believe customers should not only be able to self-service the configurations of CDN, they should also be able to control the cost. Okay, of course, there will be a trade-off between cost and performance, but we need to give customer the power to do that. And again, we offer comprehensive analytics. We have a lot of information in the access log customer can download, and they can even they can even define their own metrics, their own fields in the access log. And we also support real-time log, which feeds the log entries in real time to customers' designated log ingestion point. So here is a structure of a CDN Pro POP. So there's nothing fancy, I would say, by just looking at this diagram. It's pretty standard. I believe most cloud service are using this kind of a structure. We have a router facing the public internet, and the request first goes through the router and reaches an layer 4 firewall and load balancer, and then reaches a bunch of layer 7 load balancers. Okay, and after that, the request is served by the edge server, and if necessary, the edge server would contact some external service or origin or parent nodes. Okay, but the important thing here I want to emphasize is that we allow customer to directly write Nginx configurations to be executed on both the layer 7 load balancer and the edge server. We believe this gives customer the ultimate flexibility to implement their business logic. So they have full control of this structure, and we also they can even control the hash algorithms between the load balancer, the layer 7 load balancer, and the edge server to define how to distribute the request to the edge servers. We also have some mechanism to collaborate the layer 7 logics with the layer 4 firewall, mostly for the DDoS mitigations. Okay, so everything is open in this platform. So the user has lots of control. And we designed this workflow to manage the configuration. We define this workflow to be very similar to the general software development lifecycle. For example, when you create and update a property, it's very similar to starting a new software project and update the code. And before you deploy this property, you need to validate it. So this validation process basically resembles the compiling process during software development. Okay, so it helps to detect problems or errors that can be detected with a static code analysis. Okay, so if any problem found, you go back to update the property, and if everything looks okay, you can optionally deploy this configuration to some staging server. So this and do test in the staging environment. So this is very similar to runtime test. software development. And if everything is a test, it's okay, you can then deploy this property to production. No, this is similar to go into production for a new piece of software. And you can keep testing and keep looking for bugs in the production environment, and you can go back to update the property and go through the process to keep updating its configurations. And as I said, since we believe the users will, we hope the users will be developers or DevOps with development capabilities. We designed a lot of features to help them to more efficiently manage the code. For example, we support version control. So each property is version, and you can clearly see that from this picture. You can clearly see which version is deployed to production, which one is deployed to staging, and we support for each version you can write some message. This is just like the check-in message when you use any code management platform. So this should be very familiar to any developers. And we also support syntax highlights on our portal, which is also so the it's more easily makes the code more readable to the users. And it's very important to support auto-completion, because Nginx has so many directives with different functionalities, so you don't have to remember everything. So in the code editor, you can just type a keyword. So in this example, you can type header, and in this box, we are going to list all the directives related to header manipulations. With the directive itself, and also some brief help information about this about each directive. And since it's the configurations are version, so it's important to support the diff between different versions. And some of you may feel that it's pretty trivial, right, to implement this this kind of diff. You can easily find some components, open source component on the internet, and integrate it into our portal. You're right. It's to implement this UI is pretty trivial, but the important thing here is that for this diff really to be meaningful, to be working, we have to make sure all the configurations is visible on the portal, and it's configurable by the customer. So think about it, if there is even one piece of the so-called backend configurations, which the customer cannot see, this diff is basically meaningless, because you don't know what's changed in the backend. And even if you see two versions are exactly the same, something may have changed in the backend, so which makes this diff useless. So in order to make this diff to really work, we make sure that 100% of the configurations is visible and configurable by the customer. So this is what we mean 100% self-service. So basically, if the customer cannot do something on the portal, we will not be able to do it either. We don't have anything in our back pocket. Okay, so that's how we define 100% self-service. Okay, so usually in those cases, usually it means we need to develop a new feature to support that. And we, because of the complexity of the Nginx configuration, if you're already familiar with Nginx, so it's going to be pretty easy for you to get started. But for people not that familiar with Nginx, of course, you can refer to the public documentation of Nginx. They have abundant information there. And we also created a pretty detailed guide for you to really get started with configurations on CDN Pro. So on this page, we are showing an example of how CDN Pro is going to integrate with third-party services. So in this example, the client is trying to get a resized version of an image, okay, from this domain. Okay. So when CDN Pro the resize command is specified in this query string. Okay. So when CDN Pro receives this request, so of course, if it has a cached version, it will return the processed image immediately. But if it doesn't, it will be able to reconstruct a new request and send to this third-party image processing service. Okay. Because we assume that this third-party service should have a clearly defined interface, you know, for people to use it to do various image processing to some original images. Okay, so it should have a clearly defined interface. So the CDN Pro, on CDN Pro, the customer is going to be able to reconstruct the request based on the third party's requirements, interface requirement. So you send this new request to the third party service. And this service, of course, it needs to get the original image first. So where does it get the original image? It's easy. It can get the image from the CDN, from CDN Pro. All it needs to do is to just remove the query string, because the request carries the original URL of the original image. So it just asks the CDN, you know, for the original image. And if the CDN has a cached copy, it returns directly. And if it doesn't, it goes to the origin, just like what a normal CDN would do, and get the original image and return to the image processing service. And the service would do the processing, in this case, the resize of the original image, and returns the processed image to the CDN Pro. And CDN Pro caches it and then returns to the client. Okay. So this is a simple example. And what we are hoping is that, you know, this example we are using image processing service, but there can be a lot of other service, maybe more complicated services, you know, like maybe some AI engine, you know, so CDN Pro can use to help the customer to achieve their business logic. And what we hope is that maybe in the near future, there can be a web application store. So developers from all over the world can create their own edge or their own services deployed on some cloud computing platform or some edge computing platform. So the CDN users can use those services as building blocks, okay, and use our CDN platform to glue those building blocks together to implement their, you know, maybe complicated business logics. So that's an ecosystem that we really want to see in the near future. Okay, and yeah, as I mentioned, we also provide some pretty comprehensive analytical tools to our customer. So some basic traffic information is available through the standard API, and we have more than 100 metrics available in access log, and customer can self-define additional metrics in the access log, so they can download, analyze offline in their own log processing system. And if they don't want to set up their own log processing system, we also have a Grafana-based GUI we can open to customers for them to directly do analysis on our portal. So they don't need to even set up their log processing system or big data system, which can be complicated. And for some advanced, technically capable customer, they may have some real log ingestion, log processing system, and can receive a log, and they want to receive real-time log entries from our platform. We also support this real-time log, so they can send fully customizable access log records sent directly to their ingestion point. So let's dive a little deeper into the CDN Pro, the usage of CDN Pro. So here, I want to introduce you two important concepts on CDN Pro. One is called property, one is called edge hostname. As you know that any CDN platform consists of two major parts. One is the cache servers or proxy servers. Okay. And the other one is the GSLB, the Global Service Load Balancer system. So property is basically all the configurations that needs to be deployed to the proxy or cache servers. So they include, but not limited to, the domain names and information about origins or the third-party cloud services, and some cache policy, access control policies, request response processing logics, and also the TLS settings, certificates, auto version. Okay. The edge hostname is basically the CNAME records that you would configure on your DNS system to direct client traffic to our platform. The configurations basically, we allow customers to control the GSLB behavior. I'm going to get back in a few slides later. And so here is the UI of our console for you to manage the property configuration. So as you can see that the configuration is version, and here are some of the operations you can do with each version. You can edit it, and you can clone it to create a new version. You can compare it with other versions. You can validate it, as I just mentioned in that flow chart. You can also see, you can deploy it. You can also see the deployment history. So for you to track the changes over time. And here is the UI for you to manage the edge hostname. Okay. As you can see that here, this edge hostname basically you can use as a simple smart DNS system. As you can see here, that we allow the users to define the actions to the end users in different geographic regions and in different ISPs. Okay, so in this particular case, we configured all of our servers in the world to serve people from all regions and from all ISPs. So this is basically the default setting, but for requests from Google Cloud or from Google, we want to direct all those requests to one particular server, okay, with this IP address. So this is just to demonstrate some simple things you can do with the edge hostname. So here is a example showing you some key components of a property. And so as I mentioned, one important thing is the host name, the domain names you want to accelerate, and we allow you to put a description, basically a piece of free text to describe this particular version. and we allow people to describe the origins. And yeah, as I mentioned, we allow people to write Nginx configurations on the load balancer. So that's what we call load balancer logic, which is the Nginx configurations to be deployed to the load balancer, and also the edge logic, the configurations to be deployed to the edge servers. And we also allow people to describe, to specify the TLS certificates and TLS ciphers and the supported versions, lots of other configurations. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this part is how you define the real-time log I just mentioned, to send real-time log entries to your own log ingestion point. Okay, this is again the property development or management life cycle. So here we want to mention is that a version will be frozen once it is deployed to staging or production. This allows us to easily roll back to a previous version, usually a previous stable version if you find some problems in a new version and you want to quickly roll back to a working old version. So this ensures that old version will not be changed. So here I'm giving you a few examples of the edge logic. So hello world is an edge logic that's as simple as it can be. And here is edge logic of some simple caching logic. So we specify a cache time of 10 minutes, 10 minutes for everything, but for except for some highly cacheable content like images or HTML files, we want to cache for 1 day. And the third example is a more complicated example, in which we want to go to 2 different origins based on some values in the request header. So here we use the if directive to make the judgment. And for the second origin, we also need to rewrite the URLs. So this is an example how you do this. So on this page, we listed a few major enhancements we made to the open source Nginx. So we added lots of new directives to support, for example, cryptography algorithms, string manipulations, and arithmetic operations, and we also, and more complicated header modifications, especially response header from the origin. Here, I want to introduce this important feature, origin fast route, which enables the access to external servers, including origin or third-party servers, through our HDT, our high-speed data transmission platform, for a better and more stable performance. So this is really useful feature if your origin is, for example, on a different continent. And yeah, we also updated the Nginx to support multi-tier caching. Now we have the edge and the parent structure. And we also made a few important enhancements to support attack detection and mitigation. Okay. So here, I want to describe how we design this new traffic management, or the GSOB system. So here are a few challenges for any GSOB platform. So first of all, GSOB basically plays a major role in the performance of a CDN, because it's in charge of directing an end user to the closest and the optimal CDN path. So that's a really important functionality. So the challenge is that how do we make sure that this system can direct the end user to the best server that's nearby and not overloaded? And different customers, some customers may be cost sensitive. So we also want to make sure that we achieve the previous goal with some cost constraint. And traditional CDN, they set price based on the regions. Like for North America and Europe, they have a price, and for APAC, they have a price, and for China, they have a different price. So, but the problem is, even in the same region, the cost for a CDN can vary dramatically. The cost for different ISPs in different locations, they can be very different, sometimes as high as 10x or even more. So it's very difficult for CDN providers to set a good price for each region, to make sure it's competitive and also make sure it's profitable. And on the traditional CDN, customer is forced into a fixed coverage map, with no control over the performance or the cost. Okay. So on CDN Pro, our solution to the problems we just mentioned is that we categorize all our POPs into 7 server groups purely based on cost. So not on geographic region, based on cost. Okay, so we have 5 server groups outside China. We call standard, premium, deluxe, ultra, and near China. Of course, the cost from low to high. And because of the special regulations in China, we had to separate the POPs in China into 2 server groups called China Standard and China Premium, with a lower cost and higher cost. So we categorize our POPs based on cost, and we also set different prices for traffic served by the 7 server groups. So customer can enable different groups to serve visitors in different zones. So if they really care the performance of a particular region, they can use as many server groups as possible. Okay, as long as they can, they feel that they can afford the price of that server group. So, by the way, the ultra server group and the standard server group, the hardwares are basically the same. As I said, the only difference is the cost, is the bandwidth cost. Okay, so adding ultra into the edge host name does nothing but gives you more POPs to choose from. So the end users is more likely to get a POP that's close to them to get better performance. Okay, so here is an example of edge host name configurations. And as you can see, we can define different policies for visitors from different regions and different ISPs. And CDN Pro also define some brand new business model, because since we opened the computing powers, so the conventional model which charge based on bandwidth or volume is no longer enough. So we believe it's really important to offer the charge by CPU time, okay, and also by a few value-added features. So here I want to emphasize the CPU time, because as a computing platform, it's really important. It's going to consume a lot of the CPU. And on the CDN Pro platform, we have metrics, we have reports to show you the utilization of CPU, just like how we show you the bandwidth report. So here on this picture, you can easily see the number of CPU cores consumed by 1 or more domains served on the CDN Pro platform. And the CPU utilization, the CPU time will be one of the billing items. We believe this is really important for a CDN that's really supports edge computing. Okay, so this is all I would like to share with you today. And by the way, we have 1,500 discount for the first 3 months for any new users. And Thank you all.
There's a question from Bruce Tucker, and his question is, do we have to code by ourselves?
Oh.
So maybe you can give an explanation.
Right. So if you don't feel confident to code by yourself, our customer service can definitely help you. And we are not forcing you to code by yourself, but our customer service can help you get started. And for example, maybe we can help you create the initial configuration. And if you feel confident, maybe you can update that initial configuration later. But we are always here to help. And Nginx is a very popular web server and proxy server in the world. I think it's not going to be very difficult for people to master the configurations. Oh yeah, we have another question about reseller channel option. Yes, something I didn't mention is that we define a very comprehensive, we developed a lot of features to support the reseller model. Okay, so resellers can log into our portal and manage and onboard child customers by themselves. And they can easily impersonate any of their child customers and do configurations and view the traffic report of their child customer. The question, we have some question about the server group. So server group, as I mentioned, that for different regions, you will have different results. So usually the cost in North America and Europe is lower than most other regions. So most hubs in the North America and Europe is in the are in the standard server group. So if you care, so choosing standard server group is going to give you a pretty good performance in North America and Europe, but maybe not that good performance in, for example, in APAC, or especially in China, because it's using server groups outside China to serve China is not going to be performance, not going to be great. Basically, you can try different server groups. For example, maybe what we suggest is that customer can start with a standard server group and observe the performance. So if the performance is good enough, then they can stop with the standard server group. If it's not good enough for their interested region, they can add one higher server group, for example, the premium server group, and test the performance again. And if still not good enough, they can add the deluxe, and they can add the ultra. Okay, and they can evaluate the performance with the cost that they're going to pay. So that's what we suggest. And DNS, okay, the DNS compare versus Nginx, okay, because DNS gives us more control. So Nginx, we are relying on the policies on the router, so we can accurately control the load on each pod. So DNS gives us more control. That's the main reason we chose DNS. So the next question: why do we need to concern about CPU consumption? So the why do we need to concern? Because as I mentioned, because we are going to offer computing power to the customers. So the customers is not only using our CDN to just move data as a traditional CDN. We allow customers to implement some pretty complicated algorithms, especially some cryptography algorithms, which are very CPU consuming. So the conventional CDN, what they do is that they merge the cost of the CPU, basically the cost of the servers. into the bandwidth cost, okay, to charge the customer. But here we want to really separate the bandwidth cost and the server cost. Just like, you know, CPU charged by CPU is not really new. So it has been used by the cloud computing for like 20 years. Okay. So I think you feel natural to pay for the CPU usage on the cloud computing platform, right? So I think it shouldn't be a surprise for you to, you know, pay for CPU utilization on the edge computing platform. And it will be charged by CPU time. Okay. So we have a blog on our website to explain how we calculate the CPU time. I think we have the link on one of the slides, and we are going to, yeah, so yeah, on this page, so you can see there's a link. When we are going to publish this my slides today, and you can go to this link to see the details of about how the CPU time is calculated. And the next question, would the integration be as same as this model product? Multiple products, you mean other products offered by CDNetworks, right? I think what you probably are talking about maybe cloud storage and maybe some of the security products like WAF. Right, so CDN Pro can seamlessly work together with those products, and customer can use all those products on a common portal. Would customers be able to manage control their traffic and security CDN Pro themselves? Yes and no. So for traffic, definitely we allow customer to manage the traffic, especially through the edge hostname, the configurations of the edge hostname. And for security features, we can, you know, we can offer some features for customer to self-service. But more importantly, our belief is that customers should not need to worry about security. They only need to worry about their business logic. Okay, it's our responsibility to make sure that the customer's business logic is, or the customer functionality of customer's application is not affected, even if their domain or their website is under attack. Okay, it's our responsibility to solve those problems. Customers shouldn't need to worry about those. So that's our philosophy. Okay, so for example, DDoS attacks, most of the mitigation configurations will be done by ourselves, and including the analysis and to how to apply the most appropriate mitigation configurations. We will take care of those if the customer purchase the security service from us. So because we believe it's our responsibility, customer don't need to worry about that. Customer should only focus on their business logic. I hope that makes sense. All right. Oh, there's so many more questions. Let me see. Yes, we are WAF. We already have because CDNetworks already have a pretty mature WAF product, so that product can be used together with the CDN Pro. So what we are going to do is that we insert that WAF service between the CDN Pro and the origin, because the WAF basically protects the origin. So we are going to integrate WAF between the CDN platform, CDN Pro platform, and the customer's origin. Yeah, the image optimization service we are actively building it. We are going to release it pretty soon, so customer can directly use it. Yeah, so Tyler is asking about the comparison of CDN performance in China. Yes, we hope that, I believe CDN Perf will include more competitors in China to add to their list. So at the moment, they don't have, so the other CDN providers in China, they are not included in the CDN Perfs list. But there is another popular CDN performance monitoring company called Citrix. And in that, I checked it yesterday, and we are also #1 on their list in China. If you have any questions later, you can always send emails to our staff to support at CDNetworks.com.